Hello everyone and welcome to another video on the Fleet Signal YouTube channel. My name is Alex from fleetsignal.com and today I'm going to look at this. This is the Kurak Alliance Fleet Guide for Firestorm Armada. There are two of these books. There's one for the Kurak Alliance and there is also one for the Xenian League. Go and watch the other video for the Xenian League book if you want to see a flick through of this book, of the Xenian League book. This video, however, will focus on the Kurak Alliance book. So this is basically a book of fluff and stats. The stats are current as of the date of this video, so they should also be up on the website, on the Spartan Games website as well, spartangames.com. Sorry, spartangames.co.uk. So yeah, without further ado, let's go and have a look through this book. So as you can see on the front, nice cover design, Kurak Alliance Fleet Guide, Spartan Games. Nice background design as well, blah blah blah, Kurak Alliance. And on the back, it's just a bit of blurb about a bit of dust there. I have been reading these books, so they're not in pristine condition. But yeah, it's basically tells you contained within this fleet guide is information about the history of the Kurak Alliance races, and also the it also has stats as well for for all the ships. At the bottom there you see Firestorm Armada, blah 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 blah. So let's go inside. So Firestorm Armada, nice Kurak Alliance logo there. Oops. And straight away you get a bit of blurb on this guy. Let's move this into shot a little bit more. There we go. So this guy is, well, some people call him Admiral Buzzcut. His actual name is apparently the Sarge. And it tells you about what he is. It's basically a Terran propaganda image, more or less. So there you go. And the contents, as with the rulebook, everything is color coded for each faction. And yeah, contents page. Then we go into the core homeworlds. Terra for the Terran Alliance, Zeta for the Aquam Prime, and Kerenda for the Ceruleans. And these are the three main races whose fluff you will find in this book. And then we start with the Terran Alliance. It kind of looks like the core rulebook fluff at first, and then you start turning pages and you realize it's not. So this is basically the history of the Terran Alliance, how they came to be, how they came to the present day in the game world. So as you can see, lots of fluff for the Terrans to show you, to tell you all about, what they're all about. So next we get into fleet building, basically how to build a Terran fleet, all the things you need to know. And then onto the ships. Dreadnought, the battleship, well, one of the battleships. Lots of photography which you'll find interspersed throughout the book. The other battleship, the Tyrant class, which you get in the 2-player starter set. The carrier, Ares and Zenith class. More photography of some Terrans engaging some Rothosa. Battle station, battle cruiser, Marshal class. The heavy cruiser, the cruiser. More photography. Some nice photography actually. Shield cruiser, destroyer, Artemis class. The frigate. The other frigate, and the escort. And more photography, a nice picture there of some destroyers and a Tyrant battleship. And then, this is actually probably my favourite part. Actually, my favourite part is the fluff, but maybe my second favourite part of this book is these fleet guides. Basically, these are meant to be like famous fleets for each faction that fought in the war, they were honoured, or did something in particular that was notable. And they're basically example fleets. So if you have, for example, in this case Terrans, and you want to build 1200 points of Terrans, but you're not sure what to build, you can look through this and use this as a starting point of what to build. And then once you've built this and maybe played it once or twice, you can use that to build upon. So you might want to, for example, there are dreadnoughts in this fleet, but you might want to replace them with battleships or even carriers. So you can use this as a starting point and then tweak the fleet as you go. So you're not kind of starting from zero, you're starting from something. These aren't guaranteed to be competition worthy at all. They're just meant to be examples of what you could build at this number of points. So here you have the Storm Fleet, the Defiant View, 203rd SCA, 1200 point battle fleet, and a bit of fluff for the fleet, which might encourage you to make your own fluff for your fleet. Here you have a Fathom Fleet, Bulwark of the Charter, 734th SCA, which is an 800 point patrol fleet. So if you want to, for example, progress from the 2-player starter set, then maybe you could, you know, use this as a way to do that. And then we go on to a Fortress Fleet, the 212th SCA 2000 point Grand Fleet, which has battleships, battle cruisers, heavy cruisers, frigates, all sorts, and a bit of fluff for them as well. And we have another fleet, another 1200 point fleet, 94th SCA Dresden Expansion. This is a 1200 point battle fleet, which also includes Hawker Industries ships as well. So it's actually an alliance fleet. So it gives you an example, you know, but gives you an example of those kinds of fleets. And then we have some nice photography of the Ceruleans, because we're going on to the Ceruleans and their fluff, and you know how they started out, you know, their history, and how they've come to you know, reside in the current Firestorm galaxy. So lots of fluff for the Ceruleans, which is quite interesting. All the fluff is written with a kind of a wry sense of humour, which I think some people pick up on, some might not, but it is there. How to build a Cerulean fleet. And then we go on to the ships, the Dreadnought, the battleship. Nice photography of some Cerulean ships there. Onto the carrier and the battle station. The battle cruiser, the gunship. Some Ceruleans engaging some Dendrenzian on those 2 pages. Heavy cruiser, destroyer, frigate. Some more photography of Ceruleans, and then the corvette and the escort. The corvette, the Plombardo class, I think was one of the ships that was actually slightly modified. There are some tweaks to the old stats in this book, but the PDFs should be up right now on Spartan Games.co.uk, or shortly they should be up if they're not up already. So yep, more photography of the Ceruleans. And then, just like the Terrans, you get some example fleets for the Ceruleans. So this is it's a 1200 point Rampart fleet, which is actually an alliance fleet because it has Vaedreth ships. So yep, that's an example of a Cerulean Vaedreth alliance fleet. And then you have this fleet, which is 1200 points, the Bastion fleet, 1200 point Bastion fleet, 720th. So yep, you got that. Outrider fleet, which is 800 points, and the 80th Grand Sphere fleet, which is a 2000 point Grand Fleet. The Grand Sphere is basically, in Cerulean lore, it's kind of it's like the core Cerulean worlds, the first worlds that they settled. You know, that kind of area is called the Grand Sphere. So then we move on to some nice photography of the Aquans, because we're going to the Aquan fluff, and this is the faction I play. So I was really interested to find out, the Aquan's background and how their ships are made, how they came about. The ships are actually born, not made. If you read the fluff, you'll find out all about that. It's kind of interesting. And then how to make an Aquan fleet. And then we move on to the ships. And as you can see, these are actually the latest renders for each faction. So instead of the Medusa, which is the so-called the Cthulhu ship, instead you get the Kraken, which is this ship here. And likewise, instead of the Manta, which is one of the most distinctive ships in the game, instead you get the Dagon render instead. So all the renders are the latest renders of these ships as of the printing of this book. But they are all subject to change as well if they if the ship hasn't actually come out yet. So yeah, so we've got these guys, some nice photography of a Kraken unleashing towards somewhere. The battleship, the carrier, as you can see, it's a Maelstrom, not the older ships. The battle station, the battle cruiser, Orca class. Some nice photography of some Aquans engaging some Directorate, which is their kind of rivalry in this game. Then you have a heavy cruiser, a cruiser, a destroyer, which is probably my favourite Aquan ship actually. Destroyers are really good for the Aquans. Frigate. Some nice photography of a battlecruiser or two. Corvette, escort, more photography. There's lots of photography all around, all through this book. And then we go on to the battle shoal. The shoals are basically what the Aquans call their fleets. Silver's cluster fleet, 1200 points. So you know, if you want some ideas on how to build 1200 points of Aquans, there you go. And you can also use these pictures as well for ideas for paint schemes too. Typhoon Shoal, which is an 800 point patrol fleet. Retribution Shoal, CSIF Ring Fleet, which is a 2000 point fleet. And I think these, yeah, this is also an Alliance fleet as well. It has Turkai ships. So this is also an Alliance fleet. And then you have a Guardian Shoal, which is another 1200 point fleet. And more photography, this time of some Alliance ships with some Aquan ships down here. I think these are Terran ships, you know, Ryushi ships. So these are, you know, Alliance ships mainly, because we're going on to the Allied factions. There's a little bit of fluff here on the Allied factions. I would have liked to have seen much more. You know, I really want to know the background of the Ryushi, of Hawker Industries. It is on the website, but I would have liked to have seen it in the book and expanded on. But hey, you know, I suppose Spartan only has so many people working there and only so many hours in the day, with all the other games they make as well. So here you have how to build Allied factions, you know, Allied faction fleets. And then we go straight into Hawker Industries. So these are some Hawker ships, the battleships, the carrier, the cruiser, frigate, escort. And then we go into the Ryushi, which is my Alliance fleet. You know, I'm building an Alliance fleet of Aquans and Ryushi that I call Sushi. So, yep, here we have the Shaotrai class, the Onisha class, the cruiser, Hokuta class, and the Akarai class corvette. And you can probably tell the Ryushi are kind of, you know, Japanese inspired. And here you have some Aquans and Ryushi engaging some Dendrenzi. And then we go on to the Tarakians. These are new renders, as far as I can tell, for Tarakian ships. So you have the battleship, which is a meaty battleship. That is a meaty ship. I really want to see how that's going to look when the model comes out. Cruiser, the frigate, and then we go on to the Turkai. You know, sadly, there's no render for the Turkai dreadnought. Assault cruiser, torpedo cruiser, frigate. It's a really big render actually, but yeah, the frigates are obviously smaller ships. And then the Vaydreth, so the Predator class battleship, the gunship, which unfortunately again has no render, the heavy cruiser, and the assault cruiser. Oh, and the destroyer, which again has no render, and the corvette, Reaver class corvette. And then some more photography of some ships engaging each other. I think that's Hawker engaging Rothosa. And then onto Zelosians, which are, again, new renders. Apparently the Zelosian ships are changing, their model design is changing because it's too hard to build the older designs. It was too hard to, you know, manufacture them en masse as they would need to be made. So their designs got changed to these designs. Just, you know, still look quite good. The Dreadnought, Cruiser, the Frigate. And on the back we have more photography. And that's it. So that was a quick flick through of the Kurak Alliance book. As you can see, it's hardcover, it's a great quality book. It's not an essential purchase by any means. You don't need to buy this book to play Firestorm Armada. Because the stats are available, they're always available on the Spartan Games website. So you don't have to, you know, buy, like, it's not like a codex that you have to buy like in other games to, you know, to be able to play a particular faction. However, this book does let you go further into the game if that's what you want to do. You know, if you really want to get into Firestorm Armada, learn about the lore, you know, and, you know, learn, you know, maybe find out how to build some ships, not ships, fleets. Then, you know, this book is a really good purchase for anyone who's, you know, basically a fan of the game, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I'd recommend it. You know, I bought this on day of release because, you know, I like background in games. You know, background kind of gives the game more solidity. I think. Otherwise you're just moving ships around a table. So yeah, that was a look at the Kurak Alliance fleet guide for Firestorm Armada. As always, if you like this video, then please hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike, and please subscribe if you can, because that will mean that when the next video goes up on the channel, then you will know about it, because YouTube will ping you. So, yep, that's about it for this video. Until the next one, see ya.